Hello, ladies. Hello, gentlemen. It's going to be a bit of a mishmash today. I've got a whole bunch of advice that comes from one of my old coaching clients, actually, who wrote this really long post on his last day of the coaching program. And he just mapped out like everything that he'd learned, or all this sort of mindset shifts and changes and reframes that he had figured out from his time in the coaching program. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to read through each one of them, and I'm going to give my thoughts and respond and see how you guys can learn the same sort of lessons. So it should be a lot of fun. This guy, when he first joined the program, was super inexperienced, super nervous, completely unable to talk to women. I mean, he'd done it in the past, but like he felt like he was unable to talk to women in public, and that was what he came to me for. He's like, I want to be able to just hit on women, to tell them that they're cute, to talk to them, to not feel like a complete train wreck. And so his main goal with all of this stuff has been right now he wants to work on his sex life, get some experience there. Eventually, this guy wants marriage and kids. He has big goals, big plans. Without any further ado, let's jump into it. So I obviously have his permission to be sharing all of this stuff. He's quite happy for me to read through all of these, but let's jump straight into them. So you're going to see as I read them out, some of them are they're all sort of covering different topics, I guess we'd say. So the very first one is obviously about sex, and he's talking specifically about when you go out to hit on women, approach women. And one of the concepts that I really got across to him was if you just talk to a lot of women, you will end up having sex almost accidentally. Now, obviously, you're still the one that's making the moves. You're still the one that asks her out. You still ask for her phone number. You still set up the date. You still do all that stuff, right? You're going to be the one that pulls the trigger. But if you can just embrace the numbers game and embrace the fact that this process you're going through or this goal that you have requires you to talk to a lot of women. Not every woman you meet is going to like you. And any women listening, the same stuff applies to you. If you want to meet an awesome guy, you might have to talk to quite a few guys. It's unlikely the first guy you talk to is going to be, an amazing match for you. It's unlikely he's even going to be single. Right? It's like a 50-50 chance if he's even single. And so I think we understand this concept when it comes to something like hiring someone for a job. We understand that the first candidate who walks through the door is probably not going to be the one that we hire. I mean, in some places you might have thousands of resumes sent to you every single month. And you go through all of those, and then finally you go through the process and you interview and you sit down, you see if the values are compatible, you see if you both want the same thing, all of that. You see if there's, in this case, you would see if there's like sexual chemistry, you'd see if there's obviously value chemistry, all of that kind of stuff. But we understand when it comes to hiring for jobs that you don't just hire the fifth person that walks in the door just because they were the fifth person. No, you meet quite a few candidates to find the one that you really like. So the same thing happens, especially if you're going to go outside and talk to random women on the street. Most of them, or half of them, won't be single. Another portion of them just won't be into you, or they're having a bad day, or they're just not interested, or for a million different reasons. And so you're going to have to talk to quite a few women. And so if you can just embrace this concept, as my coaching client did, of I'm going to have to talk to a lot of women, at some point you just kind of lose yourself in the process, and the process itself becomes quite fun. You walking up to women and talking to them and telling them they're pretty or telling them they're cute, asking about their day, having a little bit of a conversation, then saying, hey, let me grab your number. You seem cool. We should grab a drink. Like, that can become really, really, really fun. Obviously, going on dates is fun. Learning about other people, exploring your sexual side as well is really fun. All of this stuff is meant to be fun. And if you can just, as I said to this guy, embrace the numbers game, embrace the fact that you're going to be talking to a lot of women, what happens is you start to enjoy that process. You just become the guy that talks to lots of women. And along the way, you start accidentally having sex. You meet some people that you have chemistry with, things go great. You're still pulling the trigger, like I said. I'll make that very clear. It's not completely accidentally, but it can feel accidental. It feels like, man, I'm just embracing this mindset of talking to a lot of women. Women just come into my life. That's awesome. Like, all I have to do, it almost becomes like this automated self-sufficient thing where you're just going outside and talking to women, or maybe you're going on Tinder or something like that. You're just talking to lots of women. You go through, eventually you find some that like you, they go on a date, you have a great time, you end up having sex, and you're like, wow, like I was already going to be doing those things anyway. I was already going outside and talking to lots of women, or I was already going on Tinder and talking to lots of women. this woman here's a bonus. Like, awesome. It feels accidental. So he really embraced that for sure. And I'd love to see this client of mine and any of you listening really, really, really embrace the numbers game. Because at the end of the day, like I said, not every woman that you talk to is going to be single and like you and be willing to give you a phone number in that moment, even if she likes you. So you got to talk to a lot of people. Any women listening, again, same thing applies to you. You're probably going to talk to quite a few guys until you find one that you really like. The second thing my client learned, because he was very nervous about talking to women. He really, really, really was. He had a lot of fears. His self-esteem was low when it came to women. He really, really, really didn't think that he had the right to, quote, bother them. And he sort of was one of those guys that, and I think a lot of guys feel like this, that, you know, they feel like they're not cool enough to talk to women. I definitely felt like that. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not good enough for this. Other guys can hit on women, but not me. And this client of mine, I really got him to embrace the fact that most women, if you're polite, if you walk up and say, hey, you're really cute. You know, I'm Andy. You put your hand out, you shake your hand, you introduce yourself, you have a little conversation if she's, you know, got some free time, if she doesn't run away. I promise girls don't usually run away. But, you know, you have a bit of a conversation. Yo, you're cool. We should grab a drink sometime. What's your number? Like, I promise you guys, if you go through that process and do it enough, you're going to see that most women are really nice. And a hell of a lot of them, the majority of them, appreciate the compliment. Even if they have a boyfriend, even if they're married. In fact, a lot of the married ones seem to appreciate it the most because they're like, that's really nice. Like, I don't get hit on that much because I'm fucking married. Or I'm past that point. I'm older now. I'm a little more settled down. So as long as you're ridiculously polite, as long as you're not rude, as long as you leave, if she says, you know, I don't want to talk to you, or if she makes it clear she doesn't want to talk to you, as long as you understand the word no, which all of you understand that, you'll find that most girls really enjoy the process of a cute guy hitting on them. Why wouldn't they? And yes, there will be some that don't. Sure, fine. Just say, hey, sorry to bother you. Like, enjoy the rest of your day. And off she walks. And cool, great, brilliant. But what you're going to find is most girls really enjoy this process. And if you guys are willing to take the chance to throw yourself in the numbers game and go out and talk to 200 women, by the time you've talked to 200, you'll see that the vast majority of them were ridiculously nice. And more to the point, you'll have quite a few experiences where they will literally say to you, I really like what you're doing, or keep going with this, or it's awesome that you're doing this, or man, guys don't really talk to women much in public anymore. This is great. I think it's great what you're doing. I've had women pat me on the shoulder and say, it's awesome what you're doing. This coaching client of mine in particular, he went to a particular shopping mall to do a lot of his approaches. And he had someone who, like a woman who worked in the mall, I think she worked in a jewelry store or something, came up to him specifically and said, hey, I've been watching you and I've been seeing what you're doing and I can notice a difference. I can see how much more confident you're getting. Like, keep it up. Good job. And so you'll be surprised that a lot of women really, really, really support what you're doing because at the end of the day, you're being a polite guy. You're just walking up to women, giving them a compliment. If they want to talk to you, you're talking to them for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long you want to. And then you're politely asking them out on a date. And if they say no, you respect the shit out of that. You're like, awesome, cool, great. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Most people will support that. Yes, some people won't, of course, but the vast majority of people will support that. So my client really, really embraced that as well. The next thing my client really embraced is, and these are his words, not mine. I'll make it clear. Everything he's written here is his words. He says, embrace the fact that I'm dumb and retarded. I'm just going to jump in. So I think I even said that phrasing to him, but one mindset that's really helped me is to just say, you know what, I'm fucking dumb and I'm retarded. I don't know everything. I'm just learning like everybody else. I'm just going to be an idiot and I'm just going to suck and I'm just going to get started. This client in particular, and I think a lot of guys, a lot of people, he had issue where he would read a lot of material. He'd read, a lot of stuff on how to talk to women, but he wasn't actually going outside and just saying hello to some women. And so he was trying to be the expert. He was trying to sort of, and a lot of his questions were him trying to preempt something negative that might happen and try and make sure it didn't happen. He was basically trying to guess like, hey, Andy, if I say this, will it mean I don't get rejected? Hey, Andy, what if she says this? What should I do? He was trying to sort of save himself from rejection. He was trying to be the expert before he'd actually gone out and done it. And so what I really got him to embrace was like, dude, like, you're dumb and retarded. You've never done this before. And I said it nicer to him than that, but we're all kind of train wrecks. We're all just figuring this stuff out. You don't have to be this expert. Embrace the fact that you're dumb and retarded. You've never done this before. Like, everything I've ever started, I've been retarded at the start. And that's not a value judgment. That doesn't mean I'm stupid or anything like that. No, but like, I don't know anything. I'm going to make a million mistakes. I'm going to stumble. I'm going to fall. I'm going to look goofy because I don't know what I'm doing. But the philosophy that's always served me well is to just give myself permission to suck. Or as this client said, just jump in there and get started. You don't have to be the expert. And my client had a real big fear of looking silly. That was one of his biggest fears. He's like, what if I look like an idiot? What if people judge me? What if I look like I don't know what I'm doing? And I said, mate, embrace the fact that you look silly. Embrace the fact that you don't know what you're doing. How could you know what you're doing? You've never done this before. Jump in there, look silly. While you're worried about, or why, if you jump in there and you look a bit silly and you make some mistakes and you look dumb and retarded, at least you're making progress. And while you're making that progress, even though you might look a bit silly or goofy or whatever because you don't know what you're doing, other people are sitting there on the sidelines, on the bench, doing nothing. And they'll never do anything because they're afraid to dive in. So this fear of like, I don't want to be dumb and retarded, it's like, at least you're getting stuff done. At least you're learning. You'll make 1,000 times more progress. You'll make infinitely more progress if you throw yourself in the deep end and just jump in and get started, rather than sitting on the bench trying to learn more and read more theory and argue more. God, I see so many people that will argue in like the YouTube comments about like theory and like, hey, no, this is the right thing to say to a woman. No, you should do this. And it's like, when was the last time you actually stepped outside the house and went and talked to 5 women that you don't know and told them that they were cute? If you haven't done that this week, don't write a YouTube comment. God, maybe I should make that like the requirement of leaving a comment on my channel. Obviously, I can't police that and I don't plan on it, but you have to have done something to move towards your goal this week. You have to have talked to 5 women this week. You have to have made 3 pieces of content if you're a content creator. You have to have gone out and talked to 5 people that you don't know outside of the house and just given them a compliment and talked to them. You had to have gone to the gym 3 times this week. Like, maybe I don't think it's policeable and enforceable, but God, like, how much better would the YouTube comments be? How much more insightful would they be if people were speaking from a place of like, okay, I've thrown myself in the deep end, I've done something, and here's what I've learned, rather than what a lot of people do is where they're afraid to look dumb and retarded, so they'll sit there on the sidelines, never taking action, and they'll read all of this theory and these books, and they'll argue and debate and like circle jerk and all of this kind of stuff because they're afraid to look dumb and retarded. I say just embrace the fact that we don't know what we're doing. Throw yourself in there. Give yourself permission to suck. I have looked so dumb and retarded with everything I have ever done up until this point for a long period of time. Like, it might take me 6 months sometimes before I look competent. I look dumb and retarded for every day up until that moment. That's okay. That's how I've gotten everything done. This next one was another embracing of the numbers game and the fact that you I won't say have to, but you have the opportunity. You are allowed to go out and talk to 20 or 30 or as many women as you want to, women a week. If you do that, if you really embrace that, you will start getting dates. Every single one of you listening, if you just go outside and talk to 30 women a week and ask, I'll make it clear, ask 30 women a week for a phone number, you do that, you'll start getting some dates. And as this guy said, if I can push myself until I can do 20 or 30, approaches, if I can talk to 20 or 30 women a week, all I have to do is compliment them, talk for 1 minute, and then ask for a phone number. If I can just do 20 or 30 of these approaches a week, I can relax into the process. So a lot of the time, a lot of guys have a hell of a lot of fear and anxiety around talking to women. I certainly did. It took me a long time. It took me like 7 months of working on it before I got to a point where I was, comfortable enough doing it. And it probably won't take most of you that long. I had a long break of like 4 or 5 months where I took it off and, I had my reasons at the time, but it took me a while. And a big part of the reason it took a while is because I didn't really embrace the numbers game. I would sort of go out, I'd talk to one woman. If she didn't give me a phone number, I'd run back home and I'd be sort of hurt and I'd go, God, like, that took everything out of me. And I was building it up into this big thing. But if you can really embrace the numbers game and just go out there and talk to 20 or 30 women a week, say hello to 20 or 30 women a week, ask for their phone number, you're going to go on some dates. You really, really, really are. 20 or 30 is quite a decent number. You do that every single week. I promise you're going to go on dates. Keep pushing, keep doing that. And like this client said, you really can start to relax into the process. It can become, as in talking to women when you go outside, can become this thing that you are. Like you start to be that person. You're just the guy that talks to 20 or 30 women as you go about your day. You just see some women, you go, hey, how's it going? Like, you're really cute. What are you up to today? You're just a friendly, sociable person. And some of my clients who've like soared the highest and reached the highest points have been these super social dudes who've just, or some of them weren't even social to begin at the start, but they've just embraced that social side of themselves and they've just gone outside and they just talk to like 10, 15 or so women, 20 women a week. They just say hello to them. And if there seems to be chemistry, they say, yo, hey, you're cute. Like, let's grab a phone number. Sorry, let's grab a drink. So all you're really doing here is just making talking to women something that you are, something that you become. You relax into the process and it starts to become very... hands off would be a good way of saying it, but like automated. It just becomes a thing you do. You just talk to women, and when you feel some chemistry, you ask them out. So he learned to push himself with this stuff. He learned to throw himself into the process. I'd love to see him throw himself even more. He didn't get to a point where he approached 20 or 30 women a week, and that was something that I really, really, really want to push him to do. So I'd love to see him take that to the next level, because he's definitely capable of talking to 20 or 30. Any of you listening are. It's okay if it takes you a little while. It's okay if it, takes a lot of effort and pain. I don't like the word pain. Pushing. You got to push yourself, because it took me a while too. But every single one of you is capable of talking to 20 or 30 women a week if you want to. And that applies to lots of other goals too. Like, you're capable of doing 10 pieces of content every single week. You're capable of talking to 10 people that you don't know every week. You're capable of going to the gym 5 times a week. All of you are capable of greatness. It's okay, like I said, if it takes a little while to build that up. You can take a few weeks to slowly build it up, do a little bit more, get more and more success. But yeah, all of you are capable of amazing things. This next one, yeah, I love this. So one of the things that I helped this client of mine work on was just being honest earlier, not with women. I mean, it was also with women, but just with people in general, and sharing things that maybe he was worried they would have a bad reaction to, sharing that earlier and just getting it off your chest. And as he figured out, because his biggest worry was like, what if I'm wasting their time? For instance, there are a couple of jobs that he applied to and he didn't want them, but he was like sort of procrastinating, calling them and saying, hey, I don't want this job. He was worried that he would be wasting their time. Like, I've wasted your time up until this point. A lot of people worry about this. A lot of people on dating worry about this too. They might go on a date with a person, they like them, but not that much. They don't want to see them again. And instead of just replying and saying, hey, had fun, but don't want to do this again. It was awesome meeting you, all the best. I hope you find what you're looking for. Instead of sending that text, they'll sort of have this feeling of like, I don't want to have wasted their time. I feel guilty. And so you will almost like shut down and not text them and say, hey, I don't want to see you again. Sorry about that. You even have to say sorry, but hey, I don't want to see you again. They shut down and just feel guilty. And so one thing I really drilled into this client of mine, and I'll drill it into any of you listening, is you're not wasting someone's time if you're honest with them. Like, as soon as you figure out that you don't want to see them again, or you don't want to, be friends with them, or you don't want to take that job, or you don't want to work with them, whatever it might be, as soon as you realize that, tell them. You're only wasting someone's time if you leave them hanging, right? If they text you and say, hey, do you want to meet up again? And you just don't reply for a day or two because you feel so guilty. You're like, man, I'm so bad. Like, they obviously like me. They've asked to hang out again. Oh, like, I'm wasting their time. No, you're wasting their time if you don't immediately reply and say, hey, thank you, but no. That's all you really have to say. You can even just say that. Hey, thank you, but no, thank you. You can just write that. That's polite enough. You could, like I said, write a little bit more and just say, hey, I really appreciate that, but that's not something I want to do. You know, it was awesome meeting you, blah, blah, blah. You can write a nice text, but if you can't think of anything nice to say, just say, hey, I really appreciate that, but no, thank you. At least you haven't wasted their fucking time at that point. So he really embraced that. And he, at the end of the coaching, was really good at telling people. He's actually someone that opened up a hell of a lot in terms of his ability to just say what he wanted, to be very honest about what he wanted, and to, you know, like in this case, not waste people's time. He actually became pretty headstrong and forthright, which was amazing, because at the start of the coaching, he really fucking struggled to ask for what he wanted. Even with me, he struggled to ask for what he wanted with women. He struggled to ask for what he wanted with his parents, with his job, with all sorts of things. So yeah, we really drilled into him. You're not wasting anybody's time if you're honest with them. In fact, that's the kindest thing you can do. I think a lot of people avoid being honest and just saying what's on their mind, because they're like, but what if that hurts the person? Or what if they feel like I've led them on? It's like, you're only leading them on every second you don't fucking tell them that you don't want to see them again. Be honest right now. And what you'll find, for some of you who are a little nervous to really embrace that honesty, you'll find if you can just be honest and say, hey, I had fun, but I don't want to do this again. Or, hey, look, I really appreciate the job offer, but I don't want to take it. You'll find most people are fucking grateful that you didn't waste their time, that you told them as soon as you realized it was a no, you told them immediately, hey, listen, no, thank you, but no. Most people are fucking grateful for that. You can't imagine how many people have told me, like, I really appreciate that you're ending things with me. Or I really appreciate that we went on one date, you don't want to see me for a second date. I really appreciate that you're telling me this, because now I fucking know. I don't have to sit there getting excited and thinking, does he like me? Does he not like me? I don't have to guess. I don't have to sit around waiting for you to text me. I don't have to sit around waiting for your reply. You've just told me straight up that you don't want to see me again. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for saving me time. So he really embraced that, and I'd encourage all of you, don't ghost, don't sit there waiting for days to reply to someone's text. As soon as you know you don't want to see someone again, or as soon as you know you don't want a job offer, or if you don't want to hang out with someone anymore, you don't want to be friends or something, just freaking tell them straight away. It's the kindest thing you can do. I think a lot of people ghost not because they're assholes or bitches. They ghost because they're scared of hurting the other person. And so that guilt means that they kind of shut down, and then they don't end up replying and saying, hey, I don't want to see you again, because they're scared of hurting the other person. You hurt someone way more from ghosting. Ghosting hurts. It really hurts people. And so if you can just be honest and say, hey, listen, I don't want to do this anymore, people will respect your honesty and they'll appreciate it. Okay, this next one is one of my favorite tricks that I get people, or techniques, fun little things I get people to do, almost a fun game, I guess you could say, to get people to realize that talking to women is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be this scary, like, chore or pressure. And a lot of guys do put pressure on themselves. Before I talked about going out and talking to 20 women a week, a lot of people will see that as a chore, and they'll go, oh, I have to talk to 20 women this week. I have to do this, and I have to, get numbers, and they have to like me, and I have to do all of this. And you put all this pressure on yourself to perform. But what I said to this client is, you can just make a game out of it. You can call it like running a study or an experiment or something. Like, go out there and just play some games and run some studies and have some experiments. Like, can I approach a woman within 9 minutes? He just randomly chose 9 minutes. Actually, the 9 minutes comes from, at the start, he would take an hour to approach. And so one of the fun games I got him to do was just reduce that by 5 minutes every day. So if it takes you 1 hour to talk to a woman on the first day, the next day try and do it within 55 minutes. And we kept reducing that till he got down to like 9 minutes. He got down to a couple of minutes, actually. I think he got down to like 5 minutes or something. He could just talk to a woman within 5 minutes of like going outside. And so I just said to him, like, make it a fun little study or an experiment or a game. Like, set my stopwatch for 9 minutes. I'm just conducting an experiment to see if I can do this within 8 minutes. Like, can I tell a girl that she's cute within 10 minutes? Can I do this? Like, all of this stuff, it's so much easier if you make it a game, if you make it fun, if you make it something that you get to do rather than something that you have to do. A lot of you use words like should and have to and must and all of this sort of stuff, and you put all this pressure on yourself that you have to be like perfect, that you have to go out and do these chores, that you have to go out and talk to 20 women or so. No, like, you don't have to do anything. All of this stuff we're doing, we get to do. It's a privilege. It's a game. It's a gift. It's a bonus. It's something fun. It's something we're working towards. It's something awesome. Making money, having lots of sex, having lots of friends, building yourself up, working on your mental health, working on enlightenment, working towards peace and happiness and love and joy, all of that stuff. That's fun stuff that we get to do. It's not stuff that we have to do. And I see, like I said, a lot of you that put pressure on yourself and you use words like must and should all the time and you make it less fun. I have always, I won't say always, but over the last year or two, I've rallied against the words must and should and have to the point now where I see some of your comments, not to pick on anyone, but I see some of your comments where you say, like, you must do this or you have to do this. And I always jump on those. I try and always jump on those and say, like, you didn't have to do anything. I'll show you a really good example that I found just this morning, right? This is not to pick on, like, this particular person at all. But on one of my videos, someone here says, you mentioned numerous times that one must wait 6 to 12 months to make a woman your girlfriend. As I replied, I said, I specifically didn't say must. In fact, there was a 5-minute portion of the video where I specifically said, this isn't me telling you what to do. In fact, it was probably 15 minutes of me saying, this isn't me telling you what to do. I'm not saying you must do this. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. I'm not saying this is the only way that will work. This is just what has worked for me. This is what I recommend. Recommendation is not a must or a should or a have to. So I really do jump on the words must and should. And I know I'm getting, a little off topic here from the original point, but to bring it back to the original point, the whole reason that we're doing this stuff in the first place is in self-improvement and working on goals is because it's fun. But if you make this stuff like a chore or I must or it's a rule or it has to be enforced or Andy said that I have to do this, which I'll never say you have to do anything. But, like we said in this comment here, some of you misread what I say and you assume I'm saying must. When I directly have like a 15-minute portion of the video, the same video you've watched, again, not to pick on this particular guy, but this happens quite a lot. I will say in a video, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. You don't have to do this. This is just if you want to. And then people will say, oh, so I have to do this. God, okay, like I'm going to beat myself up and put all this pressure on myself to do this thing now that no one even said you had to do. And so to tie it back to this point, if you can just have fun with this stuff, approaching any of your goals, making money, losing weight, whatever it might be, approach it like you're just running a study or you're just seeing what will happen. This is all just a big experiment, like you're just playing around. We're just having fun with this stuff. This self-improvement stuff is meant to be a game, or it's a lot more enjoyable if it's a game. I treat it like a game. That's not even me saying you must treat it like a game. To bring it back to the original point, this guy figured out running a study makes it a lot more fun. Can I just approach a girl within 9 minutes? Let me have some fun with that. Another big one that he learned is how he would ask himself, how happy am I going to be if I don't have to do this in the future? And so he would use this technique when he was really struggling to do something, right? Like maybe he was struggling to go out and talk to women, or when he was applying for a job, he really doesn't like applying for jobs. There were quite a few things that he really didn't enjoy, but he wanted to do them. He just wanted to push himself. And so one technique I gave him was just this. Ask yourself, how happy are you going to be when you don't have to worry about this anymore? Or if this is something that you are going to do in the future, like you're probably going to talk to more women in the future, but how happy are you going to be when it's not so much of a struggle? It's like stupidly easy. You don't have to like push through the anxiety, the fear, the suffering, all of that. You just go outside and talk to some women and it's fun. It's going to feel pretty amazing. And so what I got this guy to do is you can sit there and fantasize about how amazing it's going to be in the future. And obviously that doesn't mean be unhappy now. Like don't sit here and say, I'll be so much happier in the future, so right now I'm unhappy. I'm not going to be happy until I get to that point. No, don't do that. But sit there and fantasize about how exciting it's going to be in the future, how cool it's going to be, how grateful you're going to be that you're not worrying about this thing anymore, that it's solved, that you've fixed it, or that you're better at it, or that you've improved with it. And so he would use this technique quite a lot. Like right now, yes, it's difficult for me, or it's a challenge when I push myself to go outside and talk to some women. That's a challenge. But I'm going to be so happy, like future me is going to be so happy that current me, like this present version of me, pushed myself to go outside. That's another technique that I've given people quite a lot, is you think about your future self and how grateful that person is going to be to your current self if you get off the couch right now and go do the thing that you're sort of procrastinating or resisting. Future you will be like super happy. It's almost like you're giving a gift to the future version of yourself. Like, there was a time where I didn't even want to get off the couch because I was so depressed and suicidal. But look at how grateful current me, like future me, is right in this moment, right here today as I do this podcast. I'm so glad I got off that couch. I'm so glad I overcame my depression. At the time, I didn't want to. I was giving a gift to my future self. I knew that if I got off the couch, I wasn't going to immediately feel better. In fact, everything in my body would say, no, fuck this. Get back to the couch. Get back to self-medicating. Don't get up. This is hard. Don't do this. That happens a lot. Like with the gym. Sometimes every fiber in your body says, don't go to the gym. Just eat Twinkies and watch Netflix and do bullshit instead. Like, don't go to the gym. This sucks. And you're kind of pushing through that and giving your future you a gift. You're saying future me is going to be so goddamn glad that I pushed through this, because then future me not only will look better and feel better, but will have built a habit of going to the gym. So future me won't have to struggle with this shit that I'm struggling with right now. Future me won't have to push himself to go to the gym, because he'll just be the person that goes to the gym because it's a habit. And so I'm building that habit now. If I can push myself, I am giving a gift to my future self. All right, so I think we'll do one more. We'll leave this as the last one, and then I will break this video up. I will do like a second part. I'm probably going to do a third part as well, because there's lots of stuff that this client has written. And if I do it all now, we'll probably be here for, an hour or two. So last one, progress is slow at first, and in the second or third year, you get results. Then you can have as much sex as you want. So this is obviously just applying to him improving his sex and dating life, but it applies to pretty much any goal. And the point of this one is, sometimes in the first year, like, it doesn't look like you're making a hell of a lot of progress. Now, you're improving, you're working on your confidence, you're doing some of the things that in the past would have been impossible to do. And I have different ways of measuring progress to make sure that you are actually making progress. If you go onto my website, go onto killyourinaloser.com/progress, and you'll see I wrote an article about how to make sure you are actually making progress. But in the first year, the progress isn't glamorous, especially for a big goal. Like, if you're wanting to go out and improve your sex and dating life, that can be for some guys like a 3-year project. It really can, especially if you're obese or something. That might take you a year just to lose all the weight. A year just to lose the weight. And obviously, I'd be encouraging you to talk to women during that year, but it might take a couple of years before you start to even like yourself. If you've been obese for a long time, chances are you probably don't like yourself. You don't exactly look in the mirror and look into your own eyes and say, I love you. It's probably very difficult for you. And so progress in the first year, sometimes even the first 2 years, can be very, very, very slow. Not always, and not with every person, and not with every goal, but often progress takes a little time. If you're someone that wants to go to the gym and add a lot of muscle, that's a multi-year project. It's probably not going to happen in 6 months. If you're someone that wants to reach enlightenment and find peace and joy and happiness and love and abundance and all of that and give to other human beings, that's probably not going to happen in 1 year for most of us. It's probably going to be a multi-year, maybe even multi-decade project. This is something that I've been working on for like 8 years or so at this. We could probably say longer than that. Probably since I overcame my depression, I've been working on and off on peace, love, enlightenment, and all of that for, 10 years or so at this point, 15 years at this point. So a lot of these goals are quite big and ambitious. A lot of the goals that you guys and girls have are very big and ambitious. They might take a couple of years for you to get there. And so this client fully embraced the idea that, in the second or third year, that's when you might start to see some really big results coming in. It's almost like, or this is another way of phrasing it, your first year is kind of your foundation year. Like, you're laying the foundations, you're laying the groundwork so that then the second and the third year you can build upon it. Now, don't take this as me saying, don't do anything in your first year, or don't expect any results in your first year. No, that is not what I'm saying. But I'm saying for quite a few people, for quite a few goals, the first year might be a little bit slow. Again, does not apply to everyone, does not apply to every goal, but if you feel like you're making slow progress, even though you're putting in 100% effort, you're going out there and doing the things that you need to be doing to reach that goal, try as best as you can to be as patient as you possibly can, and understand that some of these goals, or a lot of these goals, are multi-year projects, especially if you're going to do something like what I'm doing, right? Where you're trying to help other people, you're trying to build a community, you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to build a business, you're trying to pay the bills, you're trying to do all of that stuff. This has taken me years at this point. You can say my progress is much slower than other people. Absolutely, of course it has been. A lot of that has been because I've tried where I don't feel comfortable doing things like mass marketing, doing things like really, really, really pushy stuff, doing things like lots of clickbait, doing drama and stuff like that on my channel. I avoid some of the things that would help the channel grow quickly. But the point is, it's been a very slow sort of growth. It's been a very organic, slow growth. It's been a multi-year project. I think a lot of people will look at a content creator or a coach or someone like that and be like, man, I want to just do that. Let me get started. They'll have all the fire and ambition and motivation, and I love that. But they'll get frustrated in like their second or third month because they're like, wow, I'm not making like $3,000 a month yet. And you're like, bro, it's been like 2 months. What are you talking about? Or some guys will go outside to talk to women. They'll talk to maybe 20 women and they'll go, I'm not having any results. And it's like, you've only talked to 20 women. Go talk to 300 women and then come back and talk to me. Or maybe they'll go to 1 or 2 meetups to try and meet people to make some friends. And they'll go, I didn't really like those meetups. No one there was cool. I didn't click with anyone. Meetup is a waste of time. No, do that shit for like 6 months. If you want to build a social circle, do that shit for months and months and months until you start getting some results. If you have a passion that you want to really get into, do that shit for years. Don't just do something. I see a lot of people just doing something for a couple of months, getting frustrated when they don't have the results they want, and then quitting. If you want these results, or if you want big results, if you want big goals, it requires that you have the tenacity to not quit. I've said this so many times. There are 3 components, in my view, 3 components to success. The first one is giving yourself permission to suck. The second one is just doing a little bit every single day towards your goals. The third one is don't quit. So many people forget, look at that middle finger. So many people forget that third one, right? That third one of like, don't quit. They will throw the towel in and then say, oh, see, I can't have results, or it works for other people, but not for me. And they'll rationalize and they'll scrounge to find a reason why. They'll say, oh, it's because you were tall. It's because you're younger than me. It's because you're older than me. It's because it's not fair. It's because I'm discriminated against. It's because I'm a minority. It's because of my parents didn't love each other. It's because my parents did love each other too much, and that smothered me. Like, you'll come up with some reason as to why it works for other people, but not for you. The reason it didn't work for you is because you quit after a couple of months, and other people might have had to stick in there for years. To be very clear, what this realization that this client has had here, the one on screen, to phrase it another way, it's some of these goals might take a little bit of time. Don't expect necessarily to see the results immediately, like within months. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to really get there. Now, make sure you're making progress. Make sure you are moving forward. Like, I wouldn't tell you to just sit there and have 0 results for the next 3 years. No, that's not what we're saying at all here. But realize that some of these goals take a little while to achieve. Everything I've done has been a multi-year project. The only one I can think that's an exception to that was me losing weight. I lost 77 pounds in about 10 months. That's almost a fucking year. Almost a year. And it's only 77 pounds. Imagine if I had 150 pounds to lose. That might take me 18 months. I have a coaching client, or I had a coaching client, an old coaching client of mine, who lost something crazy like 150 pounds. It took him a couple of years. It took him several years. Now, he was working on other goals while he was doing that, but it took a couple of years. Every other goal I've ever done, getting good at photography, took me a couple of years of just taking photos and learning Photoshop and manipulating and figuring out how to muck around with the camera and all of that kind of stuff. Getting good with women took me years. It really did. Building this relationship with my, amazing fucking girlfriend, Imogen. I've been together for 5 years. And that's after I had 8 years of not so great relationships when I was younger. This is something I've been working on for a long bloody time. This channel, God, we're going on like 3 years or something at this point, 3 or 4 years. Like, this stuff has taken a little bit of time. You can do it quicker, sure. But my point is, if you find your progress is a little slow in the first couple of months or years, please don't be discouraged. Please don't quit. So many people would have made it, but they quit after months and years. It's crazy how many people could have the things they want if they just didn't fucking quit. But they fucking quit. They throw in the towel. They say this isn't for me. I'm not good enough. Or it's all a scam. It's all just blah, 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 blah. I'm not good enough. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's because you quit. That's it. If you just didn't fucking quit, if you'd stuck in there for the years that some of this stuff might take, you would have made it. So don't quit, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I will make a part 2, probably a part 3 as well. I think there's a fair bit here. I've still got like 20 more realizations that he's had. I hope these have been useful. I really appreciate him writing all of these down and being comfortable with me reading all of these out, because they're really good realizations. Some of the other ones are even more amazing as well. He's got some really, really, really good ones coming up, especially about not being so picky. You know, some more tricks to tell yourself when you're scared to go and talk to a woman. He's got probably like another 5 of those. So we'll read those out. If you would like coaching like this client of mine had, I would love to help you with your mindset, whether that's women, whether that's business, any women listening, if that's men, relationships, business, future, happiness, enlightenment, depression, as in overcoming depression, not me giving you depression. Hopefully I don't give you depression. Starting a channel, business, making money, whatever it is you want, losing weight. I would love to work with you. I will leave a link in the description below to the coaching program. You got to work with myself, or you get to work with myself, with Cam, with all the other guys in the group. We'd love to have you. I will leave a link to that. And as always, go out there and crush those goals.